Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmac Technologies and welcome to Top Brass. And today friends, we are on a CEO roundtable and I have been joined by our guests today from different parts of the world. So let me introduce our guest. Our first guest is Mr. Neville Goon. He is joining us from UK. Welcome to CEO roundtable, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to an in-depth discussion, as usual, on a Friday.
Absolutely. And our second guest is Ms. Farida Charania. She joins us from Singapore. She is the CEO of Career Zoom. Welcome to the roundtable, Farida.
Thank you, CK. I am so looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
And our third guest is Ms. Kanchan Verma. She is the CEO of Akulmac Technologies and she joins us from India. Welcome to roundtable, Kanchan.
Thank you, CK, and good morning to everybody. Look forward for an interesting discussion today.
Certainly. So I think the entire world has already gotten used to the COVID era. People have started using the digital medium as much as possible. Some are prepared fully, some are planning for it, and some are still not planning for it. So I think the world more or less is gearing up for the post-COVID era. And hence, in today's CEO roundtable, we would like to discuss the next steps. What happens from now on, because now we know that COVID is going to stay. Countries and states who declare that they are COVID free, and suddenly the COVID is returning to those countries and states. So I think our prediction was right. COVID is here to stay, and we cannot stay at home. I mean, we can stay at home, but we need to get our business running. So that is where our discussion point is, and hence the first question is, the business environment is changing at a very fast pace, and the skills gap is also widening at an exponential rate, because there was already a skills gap, and in the COVID era we identified that there are a lot of skills which are required, new skills, and hence that is adding to the skills gap, and that is why the overall skill gap globally is widening now. So in terms of what workforce should do to stay relevant, and how businesses create new job opportunities, identifying the new skilled workforce which is available today. So Neville, would you like to go ahead with that? What is your response on this one?
A huge question, isn't it? I mean, the first thing is we've been talking about the skills gap for years. It's been accentuated by COVID, and it's been more in the news since we hear about universities not going back to last year's way of teaching. So now there's going to be a lot more remote teaching that's going on in universities, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. What that's meant, and I think there was a couple of announcements over the last month or so that has probably gone unnoticed. One of which is Google are going into the market and doing their own degree course. I don't know if any of you had heard that, but it sort of slipped under the radar. IBM and Microsoft have had all their technical online courses for years, and McDonald's have also had their own academy. So when you see the McDonald's stars, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, it's because each of their employees have gone through the Google Academy. See, I've already got the Google one buzzing in my mind here. They've gone through the McDonald's Academy. And I, for many years, have said, if you're a young person, go and get a job at McDonald's, because they teach you how to flip burgers, but they teach you the whole gamut of customer service, and you become really good at the customer service arena, because 40% of jobs are in the customer service arena anyway. So we're going through an accelerated pandemic now, I think, in this gap that now people are focusing on. But why they're focusing on it is interesting, because the other part of your question was, where can companies go now? Well, lots of organisations, and I hear it on not just on the UK TV, but America and in Europe, and I'm sure it's in other parts of the world, redundancies are increasing. The big retail outlets are now letting go of people. We're talking about household brand names, Marks and Spencer's, which is sort of world renowned, although it's not all over the world, is losing staff. Why? Not because of COVID, interestingly enough, it's because of consumer behaviour. COVID has accelerated some consumer behaviour, but fundamentally that consumer behaviour was already here. So we're in a challenging time, and I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't got an answer to the question. But what we do know is that organisations need to start to work in reality, and I think that's the basic part of my answer. But equally, let's not be too complacent about this skills gap, because it is almost as big as the Pacific Ocean now. It no longer is it the size of the Mississippi River. It is oceanic. So I'll drop that bombshell as we start, because that maybe prompt a few thought processes going through, and let's hear what everyone else has got to say.
So it's a great answer, and I was using the word called widening, but I think you've put it in right perspective. It is a Pacific Ocean. So Kanchan, what do you think? We have discussed that what are the skills required, and the soft skills are now becoming hard skills. So in the previous sessions, we have discussed that. But in terms of the business recalibration, what people should do now so that they can utilize the people who are enthusiastic enough and acquiring new skills?
Okay, I have been listening to Nebel, and he has mentioned a customer behavior, one point. And I would like to elaborate on that, because now the scene is that all organizations and companies should think and rethink how to retain the employees. And for that, according to the scenario which is here, they have to train and retrain their employees to retain them. That is one. Second is that they have to be rethinking about how to really capture this negative and turn into positive. Now, when we are talking about turning into positive, that means we should have more of digitization. People should learn more. Now, when Neville mentioned about customer behavior, so the job of BPOs, we have a lot of potential in that sector. So that we should capitalize on that. So I will little differ when we talk about that, though this is pandemic and there are crises, but then how to utilize this crisis for the benefit of the business, that is we have to think about. Now, when we are talking about BPO, then education sector is something which has a lot of potential and lot of employment. Now, when we are teaching students, then we also have to put forward how to go on teaching to the students from maybe nursery to graduation. What are the modes? How can we utilize virtual reality into that? So all this, if we think and we combine it, that will create a lot of job opportunities for the people. Now gone are the days when we have to be like engineering on doctors. Doctors, of course, is required because health sector is also have booming. We require health doctors and nurses to take care of patients. So this sector is also have lot of job opportunities. So when now the education system should turn into the ways where we can capitalize on digitization, technology, artificial intelligence, and come out with more robust setup, and that will definitely create job opportunities.
So,
What
Kanchan, you gave a great answer. You mentioned things like virtual reality and artificial intelligence. And I would like to now turn the focus on Farida, because I think some of these subjects are very favorite to her and she has spent a lot of her time in this industry. But before I come to Farida, I would like to give you little information about what has happened last week in India with regard to the AI. Prime Minister of India had announced that the income tax department will become completely faceless. That means if somebody is being assessed, the income tax officer will not know the person or individual uh, by any means. And suppose the file is being processed, then next time somebody else will process. So the allotment of who will work on income tax SSC files will be determined by the AI. So this is the first time probably happening in the world where it's completely faceless, completely managed by artificial intelligence, and any grievance you have, it has to be submitted to income tax department in a digital format, and the decision will be taken. So the idea is, since there is no human to human intervention, then there is no you can't have a backdoor setup done, and hence you would tend to be more genuine, and you will be honest. So they are using AI, and India has so many taxpayers, probably the largest taxpayer community in the world, probably one of the largest. So it's a huge deal, it's a big deal. So, what is your take on this, considering that the new set of business are emerging now?
Okay. Thank you, CK. First of all, let me just kind of, put forth some thoughts, because this has been coming to my mind recently with all the people that I've been interacting, etc. Firstly, I question the old normalcy everyone seems to be on, because the neck quick speed of, forever chasing something new, hurting people and planet in the process, lack of trust and empathy for science and for people should anyways not have been normal. So my first hope, and something that I really think would be great if it happens, when the vaccine is found, or even when we kind of get through this pandemic, maybe the new normal should look like a fair, climate friendly than the pre-COVID levels. Maybe it's possible in a year, in 2 years, etc. I like to, also just kind of pick up the thread from where Kanchan left. I don't really agree that, there are no opportunities, because when something like this happens and when we are faced with adversity, there are a lot of new opportunities which have come up. For example, uh, all countries, they build resilient, if they had built resilient supply chains, we wouldn't have had this problem. But people focused on building very efficient supply chains, so they did not build resilient supply chains, and that's why we had this problem when the pandemic happened. Masks were not available, prices shot up, etc. And this is something which is, drivable from a global level, from the government level. So, probably one of the things that every industry, every company within that industry needs to look at is, building resilient supply chains. Secondly, consumer behavior. Neville mentioned that consumer behavior has changed, but yes, I agree with Neville, that has been in the offing for a long time. This pandemic just, accelerated it. So where are the new jobs? The new jobs are in the logistics side. The new jobs are in the operations, because let's take a case of Marks and Spencers. Most of their buying moved online. Maybe it was lesser, but people have started realizing it's far more convenient to actually order online, because you can try your, your apparel in the privacy of your home, probably click a few selfies, look nice, and then, if you don't like it, it's very easy to return it. So that consumer behavior is shifting. So what does a company like Mark and Spencer need to build? They need to build very resilient supply chains, a very efficient mechanism, but resilient delivery. If you actually, if you look at the BPO sector, like Kanchan mentioned, that is something where there will be a lot of opportunity, because now, since the behavior of consumer is going from walking into brick and mortar to online, you will need resolution to their grievances, and for that you will need a workforce which has to be trained to actually address that. Education, my 7-year-old child actually is learning coding online with a teacher in another country. So it is this generation, this younger children and the young adults, they are already into that. For them this is normal. It's probably maybe dinosaurs like us who kind of feel that this is not normal and we want the old normal to return, but they haven't seen anything else. They are digitally very savvy. They know this is the medium. And somewhere I also realized that I've personally started getting used to being lazy and working from home, because I love my bed. I love the cushions and I love having the laptop on my lap. So we are getting used to it. So just to kind of bring all of this together, it's not all gloom. There is still a lot of opportunity, and maybe this world will look better than what it was pre-COVID.
So great. I think everybody has made their opening remarks, and what the next phase of our discussion would be, we can have sort of a debate. And what I think is some of the things which are very, very important for the next wave for any business to grow is, one is digital. Um, AI, for example, you mentioned about, Farida mentioned about, virtual reality, where Mark and Spencer can create a virtual reality application so that people don't have to even go to the trial rooms. They can try using the virtual reality software. So there could be an opportunity in that area. But to support all of that, you need high-speed data network. So in today's discussion, our panelists have said various opportunities. There is a digital platform for education. There is BPO. There is a AI and virtual reality applications which are opening up. To support all of that, we need a high-speed link. So I think these are the things that we can discuss today, and probably in the next CEO roundtable, we can go beyond that. So I open these things openly. Who would like to take the next? Who would like to answer the next? Anyone?
I'd like to pick up resilience,
Okay,
if you
go ahead.
don't mind, because we talk about this word resilience, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't think many people really understand it. We talk about disaster recovery in businesses, and we have to use these terms which are eye-opening. Disaster recovery. In other words, I need to get your brain to think about something that is really going to be a disaster for your organization. Well, we've seen it. And I've spoken on supply chain resilience for, I'm 61, so 40 years, frankly. I've been talking about this. And as for the new normal, I've worked in the oil and gas industry for 30 years. There was no normal. Yesterday was different to today, which was going to be different from tomorrow. They call in HR parlances, I'm hearing this term, the VUCA world. Volatile, uncertain, etc., etc. Well, again, the oil industry had a VUCA world ever since I was in it. So we have become. Farida said she likes the laptop. Well, it's called laptop for a reason. It sits on the lap. Fantastic phrase, which really should never have been introduced. But we've become lazy. I mean, I think that's the issue. Something's come along that's been an improvement of something we were doing, and we haven't had to think about it. It's just happened. The smartphone. I love my BlackBerry. And then when BlackBerry went bust, I had to have a smartphone. Something happened, and we sort of slip into it. And like COVID, something's happening. You know, this has been around now for, you know, certain countries locked down earlier than others. You know, we are a global economy, and we're slipping into the convenient of arena of, you know, going to a restaurant, you know, going to a wine bar, a pub, etc., meeting your mates. And guess what? The COVID rates are going up. Shock horror, you know? But every government has said, you know, we need to be diligent. We don't have a vaccine. This thing is going to stick around. But for lots of people, we just don't believe it. We're not resilient, frankly. Businesses are not resilient. Supply chains are not resilient. As Farida said, it became efficient, but it wasn't effective. Because at the first disaster, you know, look at the PPE disaster. You know, countries around the world were buying PPE, which was obsolete. Even we have this World Health Organization that says this is the level of PPE you need. We weren't applying that across the board because we were desperate to try and fix a problem. And I see this is where we are currently. There are fintechs, for instance, that are coming out of nowhere. In the laptop arena, they're created out of bedrooms, you know, the dining room table, the kitchen table, maybe in someone's garden gazebo. And all of a sudden it looks like a great idea, and the big organizations are buying them up really quickly, almost like the .com has returned, because they're desperate for a fintech solution and they haven't got one. And then they go and buy it and it doesn't work. So I think we're in this knee-jerk arena, and I hate to say it because I see it happening all the time. I love to be optimistic about these things, but unfortunately, people are not being resilient. The C-suite isn't being resilient, and they're not looking at the long-term solution for the organisation. They're trying to pacify their shareholders today. You know, they have to fix that P&L, that cash flow that disappeared for the last 5 to 6 months because of COVID. So whilst I'd like to be optimistic about what's out there, I think we need to give a shock wave. You know, we need to tell people this is a tsunami and you need to get on board. You know, this disaster recovery stuff. We need to be talking that language. Otherwise, people are not going to be entertain the discussion. And let me just raise one specific issue: digital. Now, for the four of us on here, we love digital. Why? Well, we're talking across the digital arena. We talk digital every day. It's just part of our everyday language. Now imagine a very large organization, a global organization, and you mentioned the word digital in the boardroom. All of the C-suite turn to the CTO or the CIO or the CHTO or whatever they're going to call themselves. They still believe it's technical. It's nothing to do with me. This is a technical arena, your problem, not mine. They're not very resilient, you know? And why is this? And the simple fact is, they're not comfortable talking about digital. They know it exists. They've got one of these. They've all got one of these. But they fear saying the wrong thing. So, digital solution, technical, pass it to the technical arena. Even the dog's woken up to that one because it's really important, you know. So who's going to let the dogs out on that one? But as I say, this is a huge issue, you know. And I think if we just today maybe just focus on this word resilience, because I don't think we are as a nation, as a global nation. I just don't think we are. and we need to become more resilient. Otherwise, we're never going to get out of this. There's 2 pennies for you.
So I think there is a clear requirement for planning the digital strategy, and also, there are a lot of opportunities. In fact, Elon Musk has already embarked on a journey of creating an alternative to 5G. So there is a requirement here for the supporting the whole digital infrastructure, which world is, there are certain people, Neville, I like to just make a point to you, what you just said. There are people who are still in the 2019 era, but there are smart people who are looking ahead and they are planning ahead. So, but the unfortunate part is those guys are very few. So with this discussion, we hope that people wake up and start looking at embracing the digital world, start planning what to do. And data is going to be the new petroleum going forward. So anyone can take that discussion ahead.
Sure, I'll take that, because this is something which I'm personally kind of looking with, like held my breath. I think ideas are cheap, execution is everything. Operational excellence to basically get this across, but then there is no choice because it has to happen. We talk digital, we keep talking about getting digitally savvy, but we are the users, so there is a full back end, and that's a huge business opportunity because it's already happening. So like Neville said, that we move from our Blackberries to our smartphones, something else will come again. When the first when the first mobile phone I got, I was very excited because it was a mobile phone, it had a watch, it was in my hand. Today I have a watch. I can actually make calls from here. So I think it's kind of, all of us, I mean, most of us actually kind of use it in some way or the other. So I think we kind of, just join the journey. Paper money is becoming very rare now because, and again, this pandemic has, given a huge push to digital transactions, contactless transactions, etc. So paper money will soon become obsolete as well. It might not go completely out of circulation, but it will become much lesser because there's a huge cost in printing money, in getting it across to the consumers, etc. So, and what is money at the end of the day? It's an account or a ledger of how much each person owns. Yeah, so that's kind of becoming the new normal as well. So I'm quite confident that 5G is what we are talking about today. It's when the first iPhone was launched, nobody would knew we would be at 11, and we would be at a par excellence model of that phone. But there was a lot of excitement. So it is going to happen. There is just no choice. 5G is very close, and then there are huge companies and very capable, smart people who are behind this, who are making that happen. So globally, it will be available, and technology in isolation is of no use until and unless it's available to the masses. So because if anyone is doing business and it's not available to the masses, it's really not useful. So it will be rolled out to the masses, it will become much cheaper to access, and I'm kind of hoping that we move into this new normal, reset, readjust, restart, refocus as many times as we need to. We just don't quit, just keep moving forward.
Yes, I think people like you and all of us here are already embracing the digital world, but I think there are still many people who are still stuck in the old rut. So, Kanchan, we have a short of time, but any closing remarks from you?
Yeah, I think it is mandatory to provide insight of this changing era and provide people to really understand that things have changed. So accordingly, people should be trained by the organization, and people should also understand that they have to train with the changing scenario. So I think that is very mandatory, and I agree that all sector we cannot put in digitization